Please read Exodus chapter 3 verses 1 and 2. Now Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the desert and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of a bush. So he looked, and behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. Moses came to Horeb, the mountain of God, and the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a flame of fire from the midst of the bush. And behold, the bush was burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. You know, when I go to the mountains, I am in meditation. And I thought, why did the God of heaven decide to choose a forsaken bush, a thorn bush, when there are so many other nice trees in the mountains? Why did he give glory to that thorn bush, which is not even a tree? Let's look at the mountains. There are so many beautiful trees like cedar, oak, or all kinds of apple, pear trees. There's so many nice trees in the mountains. But this thorn bush, it's so ugly. It's not even a tree. And they can't even join. It's not even part of the tree family. Yet why did God give the glory of His appearance to that very bush? So, here in the Bible it says a bush. If you look in the Chinese Bible, it says it's a thorn bush. And if you look in the Korean Bible, it says that it's a thorny briar. So I thought of it as a thorn bush. This bush here, it's not like a tree which grows up tall and has lots of branches. But from the ground comes up many little branches. And it looks so weak and doesn't even look nice. And so you call those kinds bushes. So I thought of it as a thorn bush. This thorn bush is forsaken in the wilderness. It doesn't matter whether it's a nice field or in the mountains or in the desert or in the wilderness. It does not choose. It doesn't matter. It still lives there alone. But apple trees, oak trees, pine trees, they all live together in families and in groups. And they are quite proud of their family. But this forsaken thorn bush has no friends, no family. It lives alone, anywhere. It lives its life, and it ends its life alone. This is a lonely, forsaken thorn bush. Second, this thorn bush is also forsaken by the other trees. In the mountains, there are hundreds and thousands of different kinds of trees. But all those trees look upon it with contempt and disdain. And it cannot be part of the tree family. And there's no tree that says, oh, you are my friend. And there's not one tree which considers it a friend. So it's forsaken by all the trees. That's why it always lives under the shade of other trees. They may live in the same area, same mountain, same land, but it can never lift up its head. But always, it has to live under the shade of the trees, who look down with scorn and contempt. On the other hand, this thorn bush is also forsaken even by the people. Beginning from those who need wood to build houses to those who need wood for fire, there's not one who looks to that thorn bush. So it just sits there alone. And with an inferior complex that sits by the road, a man who walks by says, what is this thorn bush doing by the road? And they take their knife or their sickle and they just cut it down. So not only forsaken in the wilderness alone, it's forsaken by other trees and lives in the shade of all those trees with contempt. And yet it's even forsaken by people. And that's why it is filled with self-pity. It has an inferior complex. and only keeps to itself. And its body is filled with thorns. It does not even want to meet people or talk with others. But one day, something amazing happens. Something very amazing. The King of the universe, the Lord of heaven and earth, filled with love and mercy, ignored all those other trees, all those good-looking and nice trees, and came to this tree, this thorn bush. But this tree, this thorn bush, was shocked. Though there's so many pine trees, oak trees, chestnut trees, apple trees, pear trees. But why? Why does the King of this universe, why does the God of heaven come to this thorn bush who is not even a tree and smile? He says, forsaken thorn bush, do you know how much I love you? I love you more than all the other trees in the mountains. I love you the most. Won't you be embraced by me? And he embraces the thorn bush. For the first time in its life, it received love. And it was so shocked and amazed. And all it did was shed tears of joy in the arms of God. Are there any among you who say, everyone else belongs to this group, that group, but they don't even let me be a part of their groups? How come everyone else is so nice looking, but I'm so shabby? I'm so useless and poor, old, weak. And whether in my family or in church, no one acknowledges me. Everyone else are pastors, elders, deacons, but they don't even allow me to become a deacon. And in my family, they don't even treat me well. Oh, why was I even born in this world? Would God in heaven even remember someone like me? But I will hope that you will rejoice because of that. And that's why He has chosen you and brought you here and embraced you. Our God is full of mercy and love. He does not choose those who are proud and stand so tall, like presidents, and ministers, chairmen, other high position people. Instead, He came to you and He says, I love you the most. And He confesses His love to you. There's a president named Lincoln, and he knew God. He invited the common people to come to the White House. And the common people, they were sorry, and they couldn't go in. So President Lincoln smiled and said, come in. God loves common people more than presidents. That's why there's so many of all of you, and there's only a few of me. If He loved presidents, He'd make many presidents, but because He loves common people more, there's more of you. Come in. Let's not have self-pity or feel inferior. Let's just be happy that we are forsaken and yet loved by God. So God did not look at any of those nice-looking tall trees. Instead, He came to this thorn bush. That's why when the other trees don't even think about producing leaves or flowers, here we have thorn bushes like the raspberry. It already has flowers and fruits. Why? Because God has embraced it first. So it receives the love of God all by itself. And yet also, this thorn bush is loved by children. all those proud trees, when they do not even have any fruits, this thorn bush, because it's loved by God first, it bears these beautiful red fruits, and the children like to eat that fruit. And you can see children say, "Oh, look, there's raspberries here, there's raspberries there," and they're all picking the fruits. I never heard little children say, "Oh, look at these thorns." Instead, they like the fruits. They say, "Look, here's another raspberry bush. There's another raspberry bush." And I saw children enjoy eating the fruits of that thorn bush. That's why Jesus 2,000 years ago, he was also a forsaken stone, not used by the people of this world. That's why he received greater love of God. How about the other prophets? Once the prophetess, she had a dream, a vision of a thorn bush. And in Oriental medicine, this thorn bush is used in medicine. Like the raspberry is also used as medicine.
이 산딸기나무는 보약제를 이렇게 들어간 거예요. 그 열매가. 그래서 이렇게.
So that he was forsaken in the wilderness, forsaken by trees, lived in the shade of other trees, and was only looked down in contempt, in disdain, and forsaken by people, as filled with only envy, jealousy, self-pity, and inferiority complex. Yet it was loved most by the people of God, by prophets, and by God himself. How many people today fight for not just to receive acknowledgement from their family or from the church? And they fight with other people and try and step on top of people in order to go higher than them, in order to receive acknowledgement from the world. I hope that you will not become like that. But I hope you will become the thorn bushes that instead receive scorn, disdain, contempt. Because then you will receive love from God, and you'll be loved by children, and you'll be acknowledged by prophets. If in Luke chapter 23 verse 31, God said he is a tree. And he said sinners in the world are dry trees. And if you look in John, God said he was a vine and that we are the branches. We are all human trees. I'll introduce you to human trees who are loved by God throughout history. If you go to the Old Testament, let's look at Moses. When he was born in Egypt, till he was 44, he was even chosen as a successor to the king of Egypt. He grew like a cedar tree. He received the applause and the praise of all the people. And he received the greatest training and education. And he grew very, very proud. He was good in fighting. But at the time when he was living like a cedar, God did not look at him. But when he gave up that position as prince, when he was forsaken by the people, when he was forsaken by his own people, and he ran away into the wilderness of Midian, here we have now one who could have been king is now taking care of the flock in the wilderness. At that time, God came to him and said, "Moses, I love you more than even the king of Egypt, Pharaoh." And he embraced him. When he grew as a cedar, proud and tall, God did not look at him. But once he was forsaken and became like that thorn bush in the wilderness, God embraced him. Moses had so many thorns in his life. When he saw the Egyptians bother his own people, he couldn't bear to watch it, and he struck the Egyptian to death. And when he ran away to the Midian, he saw male shepherds taking away the well of the female shepherds, and he couldn't control his temper, and he got all mad. In any case, Moses' character was awful, full of thorns.
얼마나 성질에 무서운 가시가 많이 돋쳤나.
But once he became a forsaken thorn bush,
그런데 그 버림받은
and God embraced him,
하나님이 포옹해
he
주신
threw all that away,
그 버릇을 싹 버리고
and he became a Jesus. God must embrace us, and we must be born again in order for us to become changed.
하나님께 가지 않고
So, unless we are embraced by God, we can never become changed. But once He embraces us and we are born again, then we can become changed. That's what it means to be born again.
포옹으로 두 번 남은 되는 것입니다. 그것을 가리켜서 거듭나는 걸 하겠습니다. 아브라함과
Let's look
이삭과
at
야곱.
Abraham,
이 아브라함과
Isaac,
이삭과
Jacob.
야곱은 사람들은
People say, oh, they are the fathers of faith.
이
But
아브라함,
Abraham,
야소리.
there's no need to say, wow.
이 아브라함은
Abraham lived in a house which was covered in tile at the time. He was very, very rich. He lived in a city of culture,
문화도시, 교육도시.
and he lived
부족한 데 없는
as a
것은
very rich and wealthy, well-off man. He lived in a 2-story tiled house. That can be considered like a 20 or 30-story building owner. Very rich. And Sarah
그래가지고 사라는 핸드백 속에
Sarah used to have cosmetics in her bag. That was even discovered some time ago. That's how luxuriously they lived. When he was living so rich and peacefully, God said,
아브라함에게 하나 있어.
throw away your 2-story house. Leave the city of education and ministry and culture and live in the wilderness in a tent. And he threw it all away and he started following God.
포를 따르기 시작.
As he was following God, his friends, his relatives, they all did not come to visit him anymore. No one looked up to him any longer. And as he was wandering in the wilderness
유리방황.
and being mistreated and looked down upon by the Gentiles in the wilderness,
생의 향기의 열매를
he just continued living.
살아갔어요. 그
Though he was rich and lived such a peaceful life,
그 안정된 생활하던 부자가
we can look in the Bible
아내를 뺏겨가지고
and see how that he lost his wife twice.
한두 번이 아니었고. 그런가
And not only that,
부자가 그 사랑스러운 아내
when his wife died,
이방인한테
he had nowhere to bury her. So he had to beg a Gentile for a piece of land to bury her.
밥을 찾으려고 식량 얻으려고
And many times he had nothing to eat, so he had to beg for food. And his son, Isaac, he risked his life and dug a well, but then the Gentiles came and said, this is ours, and took it from him. So he lost it. So he went to another place and risked his life and dug a well. You know, here in Korea, it's very easy to dig a well and get water.
이렇게 산소가 좀 금수강산에서도 금수강산에서도
But there are many people who try and dig a well, even here in Korea, and they die.
그 팔레스타인
But over in that area in Palestine,
그 물이 없는
there's no water. In order to dig a well there, you have to risk your lives. And once he digs a well and water comes out, he says, wow, that's so nice. But then the Gentiles will come and they'll take it away from him.
그래서 다 이 아브라함
And that's why, because we are the descendants of Abraham, that's why the people in the neighborhood, they really bother us. If they just feel bad, they block our way and they curse us. And if something happens, they always blame us. So we always have to, yet we still help them out and are kind to them. That's why God loves us the most. And they even say, tear down that building. And that's why God loves us. Why? Because we're always looked down and mistreated by the people outside. And the father Abraham, starting with the father Abraham to his son, to her grandson Jacob, he even slept in the wilderness using a rock as a pillow. And he wandered here and there. Yet, so when they were rich, God did not look at them. But when they lost everything and were poor, empty-handed, in the wilderness, God came to them. And when they were mistreated and looked down upon by all the other people, He came to them, embraced them and said, you are the forefather of faith. You are the father of faith. Father, son, grandson, they're all the same. And continuously up to now. How about Elijah, Jesus, John the Baptist? wow, Elijah, John the Baptist, Jesus. You may say how nice they are, but they were truly forsaken thorn bushes. Elijah was an uneducated, shy man from Tishbite. And John the Baptist was a man from the wilderness. And they called him a fanatic and a lunatic. And Jesus came from Nazareth and was looked down upon as a shabby carpenter. And they didn't have one friend. Even though there's so many people living in the world, they did not even have one single friend. Instead, they were called fanatics, lunatics. And they tried to kill him. And even they were crucified. Jesus was crucified. Yet God loved them the most, embraced them, and they were praised as the greatest prophet among those who were born among women, or the Son of God. Or how about David? Oh, we may say, wow, David was king, wasn't he? But he was truly a forsaken bush. All of his older brothers grew up so well. They were good looking and tall. But he was the youngest in the family and always looked down upon. And David's brothers were so good looking. They all could become king. And even the prophet Samuel at the time, he was deceived. And he thought that they could become because they were tall, lean, tall and muscular. But among them, David was the shortest. And all he did was take care of the flock. So, if we just look at the Bible, taking care of the flock was considered a very, very low job. And that's why David's brothers didn't want to do that. So if David's father says to the brothers, to his sons, to the oldest brother, you take care of the sheep. Then the first says the second the third, you take care of it, you take it. And it always ended up as David's job because he was the youngest. So they would play and they would wander and they would go here and there. But David, he was always stuck with the flock. And at that time, being a shepherd was one of the most dangerous jobs. Right now, shepherds are considered cowboys and they're on horses and they have dogs. And it seems so nice. But at the time, being a shepherd, taking care of the flock is dangerous. You don't know when a wolf or a lion or a bear would appear or thieves would come. So you can imagine what this young boy David was like. If he had to meet a lion, what would happen to him? How would he be able to kill a bear or wolves or thieves? That's why his job was very dangerous and he did not know when he could die. And even at night, he can't sleep. Every day, he has to risk his life and tend the sheep. So his brothers would go around here and there and enjoy themselves. But David, he never got to play. He never knew when he would die. And instead, he just wandered in the wilderness with the flock. He was a forsaken thorn bush. But God, instead, he forsook David's brothers. He forsook Saul. And instead, he made David the king.